Dear students of 8A and 8B, welcome to my civics class. Today's lesson, as mentioned in the board, United Nations, points are as mentioned. Number 1, organs of the UN, importance of the organs, role of the member countries, largest organ, and last, functions of the General Assembly. First, organs of the UN. You know, the United Nations organizations, which was established after the Second World War in the year 1945, has its 6 organs. It has 6 organs. These organs are: number 1, the General Assembly; number 2, the Security Council; number 3, Economic and Social Councils; number 4, Trusteeship Council; number 5, Secretariat; and number 6, the International Court of Justice. These are the 6 organs of the United Nations. Out of these 6 organs, which one is the largest organs of the United Nations? The General Assembly is the largest organ of the United Nations. General Assembly. Now why? Because General Assembly is known as the World Parliament, since all the members of the United Nations send their representatives to the General Assembly. And General Assembly shoulders all responsibilities of the world. Responsibilities means responsibilities to solve political crises, international problems, international tensions, and responsibilities to establish cordial relationship among the member states, and brotherhood, solidarity, and avoid international political tension like that. So in order to shoulder this kind of responsibilities, all the member states are supposed to send their representatives in order to attend all the meetings and conferences of the General Assembly. General Assembly always, conducts many meetings, many conferences, and member states' representatives are supposed to be present there. That's why each and every member state has to send their representatives to the General Assembly. And that's why General Assembly is the largest organ of the United Nations. Now, General Assembly, although it is a largest organ of the UN, yet it cannot work independently. Sometimes for some works, it has to depend on another powerful organ of the UN, the Security Council. It has to depend on the recommendation of the Security Council for some important works before taking decision. That's why it is said that the General Assembly cannot work independently in all respect and has to depend on the Security Council for taking decision. That's why the recommendation of the Security Council for some works are to follow by the General Assembly has to follow. For example, appointment of some dignitaries, the recommendation of the Security Council is important. The Security Council recommends, and as per the recommendation of the Security Council, they are appointed. Now, some what is the importance of the General Assembly? Now I am going to discuss. What is the importance of the General Assembly? The General Assembly is the largest organ, as you know, but General Assembly elects its president. it elects its president for every session, and they meet for 2 months. General Assembly elects its president for every session, and it elects for 2 months, and it can be, and that is the every session, and they meet for 2 months. In an emergency, a session can be called by the General Assembly anytime for an emergency purpose. And under the charter, General Assembly is supposed to consult the Security Council for appointing the Secretary General. The Secretary General is the administrative head of the UN, you know. So under the charter, the Security Council, under the recommendation of the Security Council, the Secretary General is appointed by the General Assembly. And in an emergency, a session can be called by the General Assembly. In an emergency, a session of the General Assembly can be called anytime. Another thing is that General Assembly meets once every calendar year. General Assembly meets once every calendar year between the third week of September to the last week of December. And certain functions of General Assembly also is there. Some functions also of General Assembly we have to learn it. Before discussing about the functions of the General Assembly, I would like to make it clear to you the importance of the General Assembly. The General Assembly works steadily for the all-round development of the country, of the world. Not only that, General Assembly passes budget for the United Nations in order to grant certain amount of money for such countries who are affected during war or affected by other countries. Before solving their problems, it is the work of General Assembly to sanction money for protecting that very country, especially weak countries. Another thing is that it can discuss any matter. General Assembly can discuss any matter which may affect international peace and security. Suppose one political issue is going to harm the sentiments of other countries of the world. In that case, General Assembly, in the interest of solving the problems, in the interest of protecting security and peace and world security, General Assembly always tries to make them stop and always help others in establishing cordial relationship, brotherhood and friendship. Besides, General Assembly passes annual budget, as I told you earlier. General Assembly passes the annual budget of the United Nations. Now question is, why is the budget passed by the General Assembly? The General Assembly passes the budget in order to sanction money for the poor countries or weak countries who are affected or who are attacked, invaded by the powerful countries. Although it is the first and foremost duty of the United Nations to ensure, international peace, to make it understand the countries of the world not to attack any weak country and maintain world peace and security. But sometimes some weak countries are attacked or invaded temporarily by some powerful countries, some strong countries. In that case, General Assembly tries to heal their wounds by sanctioning money for the reconstruction of their economy. In order to regain the economy of that country, General Assembly sanction money. That's why budget is passed by the General Assembly. Another thing is that General Assembly elects the members of the Economic and Social Council. General Assembly appoints the judges of the International Court of Justice. General Assembly participates in the election for the Secretary General, but under the recommendation of the Security Council. General Assembly admits new members. It admits new members to the United Nations on the recommendation of the Security Council. Some countries who intend to be member of the United Nations, General Assembly admits them. General Assembly admits them to be members of the United Nations, but on the recommendation of the Security Council. First, the Security Council, recommends them to be the member of the Security Council, member of the United Nations. Then the General Assembly admits them as the new members of the United Nations. Another thing is that at present, one thing you have to keep it in your mind, who is at present the Secretary General of the United Nations? At present, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. At present, Antonio Guterres is the Secretary General of the United Nations. He belongs to Portugal. Antonio Guterres belongs to Portugal, the Secretary General of the United Nations organization. And he took over from Ban Ki-moon in 2017. The former Secretary General, what is the name of the former Secretary General? Ban Ki-moon. Ban Ki-moon, who, after the retirement of Ban Ki-moon in the year 2017, Antonio Guterres took an oath as the Secretary General of the United Nations. Now, another thing is that General Assembly, for an emergency purpose, can call any session at any time for an emergency purpose. For example, two member countries got involved in any controversial issues, and both of them, they are doing hot talking, and this hot talking, in order to avoid this kind of political tensions, the General Assembly immediately can call an urgent meeting, and this meeting can be called in order to solve the international tension, in order to solve political crisis between two countries or two member countries. And it is done by the General Assembly in order to make them understand that the member countries should not get themselves involved in any controversial issues or any political contradiction. in the interest of maintaining world peace, world security by the member countries. Because once upon a time, the non-cooperative attitude and aggressive attitude of the member countries, another international political organization, the League of Nations, could not achieve success. So at the time during the period when the international, this political organization, United Nations, was established by the world leaders, they made it clear to all the members that members would be cooperative for each other in order to establish international peace, international understanding, and ensure world peace, world security. And it is due to that reason General Assembly plays an important role, and Security Council also plays an important role. Up to this, my dear students, thank you.